Hi everyone! Today's video is a little different from usual. To celebrate hitting 1000 subs, I wanted to share the method I personally use to learn languages. As you probably know, I'm really into linguistics, but I've also been into learning languages since I was a kid. And after more than 15 years of experimenting with all sorts of techniques, I ended up developing my own method, just from trial and error. But first, I got to talk about a few basic concepts. The first one's pretty well known. It's the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. Basically, it shows how quickly we forget stuff after learning it. But here's the catch. Every time you review something, that curve flattens out, meaning you remember things longer and better the more you review. And that's where spaced repetition comes in. The idea is to space out your reviews more and more over time, and you end up with something like this graph. But to be honest, whether you increase the interval little by little or keep it the same every time, it doesn't make a massive difference. So I'd say just go with whatever schedule works best for you and fits into real life. Here's what I personally do. I learn a lesson, then review it every 3 days, and I do that 20 times over about 2 months. After those 2 months, I review it once every 2 months, up to the end of the year or above. I'm not saying that's the best way to space it, it's just what works for me. Some people might think that's a lot of reviews, but honestly, learning a language is hard work. There's no magic method that makes it effortless. So until someone invents that, we got to work hard. Now, how I actually study kind of depends on my goal. If I'm in a rush, like cramming for an exam, I use mnemonics. You don't need me to explain mnemonics. The idea is pretty simple. Connect something you don't know with something you already know very well. For example, when I was 12 and learning Japanese, I loved watching Fist of the North Star. So to remember that Ushiro means behind, I pictured the main character, Kenshiro, standing behind me, because it rhymes. That's ridiculous, but it works, and that's the most important. But when I'm not in a hurry, I do it more simply. Say I've got a vocabulary list. I'll just read the word and its translation, then right after I close my eyes and repeat everything I just read out loud. Then I move on to the next one. That's it. Super simple. I'm not gonna go into every little detail of how I organize my learning, because that really depends on each person. What is important is being consistent and reviewing a lot. Now, some quick thoughts on flashcards. Flashcard apps are great, they work, but I do have a few reservations. First off, creating flashcards takes time, time you are not spending actually learning the language. A good method should balance time and effectiveness. Sure, flashcards help you avoid repeating stuff you already know, but I'm not convinced the time saved is worth all the effort it takes to set it all up. Also, not everything fits into a flashcard. Vocabulary is easy, but for grammar it gets tricky. Alright, now let's break down the actual method step by step. Step 0. Talk to people. If you want to speak a language, well, you have to speak it, and as early as possible. Thanks to the internet, it's pretty easy nowadays to find native speakers for most major languages. Even if you only know 10 words, use them. Make mistakes. Talk to natives. No one's gonna hate you for speaking their language badly. And if they do, they're not the kind of people you should be talking to anyway. I call this step 0 because it's something you should be doing throughout your entire language journey. It might not magically make you fluent, but it will absolutely help you sound more natural and build real-life speaking reflexes. Step 1. Writing and pronunciation. This is the first real step, learning the script of your target language. If it's not the Latin alphabet, then obviously you need to learn it from scratch. But even for languages using your native script, you still need to learn how that language uses it, different sounds, diacritics, etc. It's a process that lasts your whole learning journey. Pronunciation is a science in itself, and there's always room for improvement, even years in. Step 2. Pick a method. I usually grab a textbook or course in English, or French since I'm a French speaker. Nobody's perfect. It gives me a good grammar base and some useful phrases for basic conversation. I could recommend some specific books from specific editions I really like, but none of them sponsor me, so basically use any book with a flashy cover. Step 3. Grammar time. This is the part everyone hates. It's like the leg day of learning languages. But I like it, so I make sure to learn enough grammar to at least start inflecting words correctly. That way I can build my vocabulary while also learning how to conjugate and handle grammar exceptions if there are any. To study grammar, I use books. There's plenty out there. Or sometimes YouTube videos if available. And I do think there's a difference between knowing grammar and being able to use it fluently. But having that theoretical knowledge in the back of your mind helps a lot with developing that instinct allowing you to form correct sentences without thinking. Step 4. Learn vocabulary. I usually do this alongside step 3. I use bilingual dictionaries, not too big, not too small, about 10,000 words, and I just learn them, straight up. Some people say you should only learn words in context. That's valid, but honestly, about half the words you come across are super clear, even without context. Like if I tell you cheval in French means horse, you don't need a full sentence for that. As for the other half, a lot of words have a literal meaning and a figurative one, and the figurative one still usually makes sense in context. For example, in Arabic, ضرب means to hit, and ضرب مثلا literally means to hit an example. Obviously, you don't hit examples. Examples aren't physical things, so you figure out it means to give an example to someone. Step 5. Read a ton. I grab books in the target language, comics, novels, history books, whatever, and read very attentively, eventually with the help of the translated version. If there's no good translation or the one I find is too far from the original text, I use AI. Using everything from earlier, grammar books, dictionaries, etc., I try to understand every sentence. And if I come across something I really can't figure out, a word or a sentence structure, I ask natives for help. And if natives don't know, or if they give me contradicting answers, which happens a lot, I ask AI for help. If I still don't get it after that, I don't waste time. I just move on to the next sentence. Step 6. Watch a ton. Movies, TV shows, videos, all in the target language, without subtitles. I keep a notebook with me and write down every word I understand. It helps me with listening skills, spelling, and writing speed, especially if I'm using a non-Latin script. Step 7. All the steps, all the time. Learning a language is kind of a lifelong thing when you're really into it. You're always picking up new words, new ways to express ideas, discovering new stuff, and all the vocabulary that comes with it. You make new friends, read new books, consume new media, and it never really ends. Plus, the more languages you learn, the more you open up new worlds of knowledge you couldn't access before in just your native language. A small disclaimer for the end. I'm not saying this is the ultimate method to learn any language in 3 days or something. This is just what I personally do. Maybe it will inspire you or give you some ideas based on my experience. And yeah, I'm sure it has flaws, but it works for my goals and my psychology. Don't copy it blindly, try different things and figure out what clicks with you. That's it. That was a summary of how I go about learning languages. Hope you found it helpful. Huge thanks again for helping me hit 1000 subscribers. Never thought that little linguistics videos edited on my crappy smartphone would reach this many people. I haven't been able to post much lately, but I hope to get back to a regular schedule soon, and I really hope you'll stick around. Thanks for watching. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe, drop a like, and share this video with anyone who's into languages. See ya!